racism, and poverty. But at the same time, my community is very proud, and we continue to fight for justice, self-determination, and tribal sovereignty. My traditional name is Kajasti. It means Tlingit voice. I'm a proud member of the Tlingit tribe, otherwise known as the Wushkiton tribe clan. Our people have had exclusive use of lands and the waters and the fish. Everything on the land was owned by a clan. We have been here since time immemorial. My grandmother told me stories of how she grew up. There were signs that said no Indians and no dogs allowed. My first memory of racism was when our family visited Seattle in the early 1970s. We sat together at a table in a restaurant downtown when I overheard an elderly white couple say they need to go back to where they belong. I was 10 years old. I looked at them and I was very puzzled and very hurt by their comments. I wept at the table. My father looked at me and he said, "It is not you, Pamela. It is them who have the problem." Another pivotal moment in my childhood happened when I was sitting in the dining room with my family in the safety of my own home. Suddenly, we heard the sound of eggs hitting the window. When we ran out to see what happened, the word muck was spray painted across my garage. Muck, an epithet which means dirty Indian, was spray painted across the garage door, and these events have always stayed with me my entire life. I abandoned my heritage and my people in Alaska in 1980. I suffered so much violence and so much oppression growing up there. I decided to live my life anonymously in Seattle because being Native meant being invisible and a dirty Indian.
A drunk.
A moocher.
Charity case.
So instead, I assimilated. I gave up my traditions back then. I lived this way for the majority of my young adulthood. I was a lot like many of our youth today, lost because of the loss of the land and the racist assaults on our culture. They know that they are Native, but they don't know what that really means. The frustration and anger leads to lateral violence and substance abuse. But I returned. I relearned my traditions. In 2006, while sitting in Seattle's Race and Social Justice Initiative training, I learned the truth about colonization. Colonialism. I decided to take my power back and fight. I joined the RSJI core team and formed the City of Seattle Native American Employees Association, otherwise known as CANUS. We taught the city about our vibrant Native American heritage, hosting many events. Princess Angeline was one of them, Tribal Sovereignty 101, and much more. I became even more active after the unjust police shooting of John T. Williams, a First Nations woodcutter, in 2010. I became a co-chair of the Multicultural Police Accountability Task Force, so I was able to speak for our Native people in Seattle. I also joined the Seattle Public Utilities Change Team as a change agent, working to break down barriers and change our HR hiring policies. In 2015, I became a county employee. When I arrived, I asked, "Where are all the natives?" So I founded the King County Native American Leadership Council. But I wasn't allowed to join the ESJ committee as a new employee because I was still on probation, which seems very institutional. I told HR management, "When you hired me, you asked me ESJ interview questions. And now you're saying that ESJ is not a part of my job." The county should hear my perspective right away, not after 6 months probation. After I moved into a different county position, I earned promotions. In 2017, I was hired as a Department of Natural Resources and Parks, Human Resources, where I was allowed to join the ESJ team right away. Well, that's progress. Recently, I decided to run for election for my tribe's governing body as a delegate, and I won. I am a social justice activist, a community leader, and I have been for nearly 20 years. The things that have saved me were the very things that saved my ancestors and made them great. Fierce, competitive pride, intelligence, ability to adapt. We are very smart, industrious, and business-minded people. We have always been masters of commerce and political and law policy. My mission in life is to continue to fight for our land and our people, and to teach our children to be even more indigenous so that we are in balance with the natural world and our communities. Our ceremonies and our stories are the very core of our indigenous resurgence. It is our stories that sustain us.